energy bills are rising at a historic rate, and there's no end in sight. Talk to enough people and you'll soon realize nearly everyone's shocked at their recent electricity bills. Some studies reveal energy costs have skyrocketed by as high as 60% in as little as 2 years. That's why tens of thousands are installing this magical little device from SavePowerBills.com to help slash their energy bills. This sophisticated gadget stabilizes electrical currents, reduces dirty electricity, and helps protect your appliances and electronics. Simply plug it into your home's wall outlet to help lower energy consumption and ultimately help reduce your power bills every month. Countless 5-star reviews back up the notion that this device is one of the most efficient ways to save money while beating the greedy power companies. But there's more. If you order now, you'll also receive 65% off, fast shipping within the USA, hassle-free returns, and last but not least, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee. Just go to SavePowerBills.com to take advantage of this limited time deal before they sell out. Once again, that's SavePowerBills.com.
I never imagined that this would take this long.
Spotlight on Maryland reported in December about 2 alleged squatters who took over a $2.3 million house in Bethesda.
Just make this very clear.
Tamika Good, the squatter and self-described pro se litigation coach,
you can't be doing regular people
featured the estate in a TikTok video posted on her account just 6 days ago. Good was charged last year with multiple counts of burglary, trespassing, and other crimes associated with her squatter takeover of a multi-million-dollar Bethesda home.
So imagine for a moment that you're on TikTok.com and you're looking for financial advice and you stumble across a woman who not only knows her finances, not only knows her stuff in that regard, but she's also somebody who says that she's qualified to examine legal documents. And you're following this woman throughout her social media journey. You're taking that advice, internalizing it, realizing that it's a great way to fight against false allegations, or false allegations as the super mayor might call them.
False allegations and not facts.
That may be leveled against you. And then ultimately you end up figuring out that this woman is not a financial guru. She's not a financial genius. She has no legal know-how. Essentially, she's about as qualified to do anything as Rayshad Ritchie, who of course has been noted for having a bunch of fraudulent degrees as of late. And in reality, the $2.3 million home that she decided to show you as a marker of her success is something that she stole and basically argued in court that she used black girl magic as a justification in order to acquire it. And that's basically where we're at with today's story. That's basically the level of intellect that was argued in a Maryland courtroom by a squatter who again stole a property and decided to represent herself in a court of law. And this is what we're going to talk about today, because the judge's rebuke of this woman is absolutely hilarious. Before I break down Tamika Good's theft of private property and her weak defense, it's time that you defend your data the strongest way possible with today's sponsor, Incogni. I got some bad news for you. Your personal information is all over the internet. We're talking your full name, your email address, your telephone number, your social security number, and your actual address are currently being collected, bought, and sold by companies called data brokers. And even though they're legally obligated to remove your personal data upon request, there are hundreds of these companies, so there's no way you as an individual can get them taken down from all these different various sites, or at least there was no way before Incogni, today's sponsor. What Incogni does is act on your behalf. They go to the known data broker sites, seek out your information, and request removal to make sure you can maintain your privacy. If I go to my own Incogni page, what you can see for yourself is that they've submitted over 1,200 requests on my behalf, and the time it would have taken me to do this on my own would be 830 hours and 15 minutes. Obviously, that is undoable on an individual level. In addition to that, if you find your information on a website that Incogni has not contacted and you have an unlimited plan, you can actually drop that link into their custom removal feature and get that taken down, a feature, by the way, which I have benefited from immensely based on my position as a YouTuber who is constantly living under fear of threats of doxing and whatnot. Now, while I'm personally subscribed to and I recommend the Family Unlimited plan because it's not just me I want to protect, it's my loved ones as well, you can get whatever plan from Incogni at 60% off by going to incogni.com/AJW and using promo code AJW in order to get that discount. So secure your internet, get your data off these broker websites at incogni.com/AJW. Again, use code AJW for 60% off. Tamika Good, which by the way is spelled Goode, who has no relation at all whatsoever to Renee Nicole Good is not exactly the smartest person there is out there, because while she has pending litigation against her for stealing a home in a neighborhood, she decided to post, which by the way was brought up as evidence at her trial, multiple different videos of her talking about how you gotta earn it, you gotta prove it, you gotta be beyond regular in order to acquire a property. But little did her TikTok viewers know what she meant by that is that you have to actually steal it. You have to not be good. You have to not actually work hard, save properly and whatnot in order to acquire such a property. And essentially this woman decided that even though she was caught dead to rights and being put on trial for this particular case, that she wasn't going to plead guilty. She was going to argue in a court of law representing herself that she was entitled to said property, that she didn't do nothing, and she was going to throw out a bunch of ridiculous legal theories. And in fact, it's hard to even call them legal theories in order to justify her occupation of this mansion, because essentially Tamika Good believed that black girl magic means that she is owed a mansion. And by the way, anybody who questions that is evil, white, and racist. And while she might not have said black girl magic throughout the course of her trial, what we find out when we actually examine what went down in the court is that she definitely 100% was accusing the people who were rightfully identifying her as a squatter, as a thief, as evil white racists, even the Asian ones.
During the trial, Good argued that it was unclear which bank owned the foreclosed house because there was no clear trespassing sign. The assistant state's attorney for Montgomery County replied after hearing Good repeat herself multiple times, saying, "I know who doesn't own the property, and that's Tamika Good," adding, "This isn't some vacant, abandoned, way out of the woods house."
So imagine being this stupid and entitled and thinking that you are able to pull the wool over people's eyes that are actually professionals, like an actual district attorney, an actual judge in an actual court of law, and you think it's a reasonable argument that you can't actually determine who truly owns the property because there was no clear trespassing sign on the property. I mean, the idea that a lack of a no trespassing sign is somehow grounds for you to illegally enter and occupy a property because you can't determine ownership of property without a no trespassing sign is an absurd, and I really struggle to call this a legal theory, but technically she was representing herself and this was her legal defense in a court of law, that it boggles the mind. But again, Tamika actually thought this would work. She actually presented it in a court of law, and needless to say, the prosecutor's response, which was, "I could tell you for sure who definitely doesn't own the property, that's you, the suspect, you, the defendant, you, the person who is about to be convicted on all of these counts because like a dumbass, you decided to defend yourself."
In exclusive footage obtained by Spotlight on Maryland, Good can be seen in a black Porsche Cayenne leaving the property soon before 7 to make it to court.
Now, I also want to point out the fact that Tamika was videotaped by a neighbor's surveillance camera exiting one of the 3 individualized garages that were attached to this property in a Porsche Cayenne, which is a very expensive SUV, or at least a significantly above average cost SUV. And the reason that this is actually significant is because she had somebody who was also arrested and charged with the same charges that she had, but as we find out in a local news segment from about a month ago,
on December 8th, Pollard was arrested in the mansion's driveway. As a result of the arrest, Pollard is now facing extradition to Pennsylvania to face multiple luxury vehicle theft charges for allegedly stealing cars from a Lancaster dealership parking lot. Pollard has a lengthy court record, including a federal case involving transporting stolen vehicles from Pennsylvania and Delaware and possessing more than 100 grams of heroin.
That guy was arrested and extradited back to Pennsylvania, so he was unable to make it to this court appearance, and the reason for that is that, among other things, including heroin trafficking and all sorts of crimes, he was somebody who was stealing luxury cars, luxury vehicles, like the very one that Tamika Good was driving. So there is a less than 0% chance that this woman, who, by the way, was followed by police to the parking garage so they could see what she was doing, actually showed up to court in a stolen vehicle that the person she was living with was on trial for stealing. Like, that is a thing that is potentially possible in this case, although the local news segment has not revealed that yet. Now, of course, I told you guys that there is more information in some written articles about Tamika Good's defense that is not in these local news segments, and I just want to read you some of these choice quotes so you can understand what this woman actually thought would work in a court of law. So Good, of course, denied her guilt to the court and to Spotlight on Maryland, which is the news agency that covered this, and she ended up saying, they may not want me in the neighborhood, but, by the way, that's a typo in this local news affiliate's written article, but what they're doing is guessing. She said in court, they're trying to dispose of me. Now look, we don't have the full
Energy bills are rising at a historic rate, and there's no end in sight. That's why tens of thousands are using this amazing little device from SavePowerBills.com. It's a small but smart gadget that stabilizes electrical currents, reduces dirty electricity, and helps protect your electronics. Just plug it into your home's wall outlet to help lower energy consumption and ultimately help reduce your power bills every month. Order now to get 65% off plus many free bonuses before they sell out by going to SavePowerBills.com. That's SavePowerBills.com. Order now.
Full transcripts available to us at the time of the recording of this video, but the thing is, she was obviously implying, which by the way, the judge ended up responding to, calling her nuts, that the people in the neighborhood that identified her as a squatter, that reported her to law enforcement, that actually documented evidence, and by the way, actually tried to press trespassing charges against her for her transgressing on their property, were just evil white racists or racists in general, because there are some Asians in this particular neighborhood, and she says they're just guessing that she doesn't belong there because these people were tracking the foreclosure and resale of this home, and while they knew that somebody was expected to move in, they quickly sussed out that the two criminals that moved in, including the repeat car thief and, of course, the repeat drug trafficker, were not actually the people who legitimately bought this house, and they were able to identify this, bring this forward to hopefully get a resolution, but unfortunately, because of the way Maryland squatter law works, even though they figured this out relatively quickly back in July, around the 4th of July, this has taken up until January of this year to actually come to fruition. Now, of course, that video that she was talking about the house and showing it off, posted 6 days before her conviction, she actually ended up saying that this is proof positive that 2026 is definitely going to be her year. Again, 6 days prior to her being convicted, and 6 days prior to that video being introduced as evidence in a court of law in order to convict her. So essentially her argument is, well, I didn't know who actually owned this property and nobody could prove who owned this property. You can't prove it's not me because there's no trespassing sign. Therefore, by the transitive property, this woman is entitled to said property. And again, I will remind you that she gives financial and legal advice on her TikTok. Like, she describes herself as a pro se litigation coach who frequently documents her life and legal battles on social media. Oh, also, I gotta mention to you guys out there in the audience, she is somebody who tries to screw people over on contracts all the time based on the reporting associated with her social media history, which unfortunately she has privated her TikTok account as of right now, which is absolutely ridiculous because I would love to examine these videos and do legal analysis on every single claim that she makes. But we have to jump back to the actual story, to the neighbors being outraged, and I do want to point out one thing about this neighbor in particular.
Yeah, we've heard about squatters in the news. Never thought it would be next door to, where we all grew up.
James O., a man who grew up in a multi-million-dollar neighborhood in Bethesda, is one neighbor of nearly an entire block who has contacted Spotlight on Maryland to investigate an alleged squatter takeover of a $2.3 million property on Burning Tree Road. For fear of safety, O asked to only be identified by the first letter of his last name.
And that is, he's claiming that he is afraid for his identity, so he only wants the first letter of his last name to be identified, which is the letter O. But the thing is, this guy's last name is just O. It's just O-H. Like, you gave away the whole thing by giving away the letter, and even though that's not proven, even though I can't document that with facts and evidence, it is 100% accurate, because if you know, you know what I'm talking about.
Hi, Miss Tamika Good. Do you believe that squatting is a crime? Why are you in a $2.5 million property, Miss Good?
After 3.5 hours of arguing her case before a judge as her own representative, we attempted to make contact during the trial's lunch break.
Get out my face.
Ma'am, why are you in a $2.5 million property?
So right here, the local news media is trying to confront her to ask her questions about why she thinks she's entitled to a $2.3 million property. And this woman who just spent the last 3 hours arguing her case as her own attorney, again, again, she's a litigation expert from the Rashad Ritchie Law School, I presume. She's like, get out my face. And I just want you guys to imagine the judge and the prosecutor in this particular case, which is a slam dunk case, having to listen to that for 3 hours. Get out my case, get out my face. I'm innocent. We don't even know who owns this property because there was no trespassing sign. And as we know, Your Honor, the law doesn't go by deeds of ownership. It goes by whether you have a sign that says no trespassing.
Meanwhile, after Montgomery County Police followed Good into the garage to survey her actions, she went back to the courthouse to argue her case for another hour and a half. Judge John C. Moffitt gave remarks before he made the ruling, telling Good she had some demented thoughts to justify squatting. The prosecution replied, "This is frankly nuts."
That's so good, man, that the judge told her that she had demented thoughts on the justification for squatting after she spent 4.5 hours arguing her case as her own attorney before said judge. Again, this is a woman who gives legal advice on the internet.com. I am sometimes described as a fake lawyer by people, by my detractors, even though I never once claimed to be an attorney at all whatsoever, because that is a ridiculous inflation of my qualifications. But I'll tell you what, if I was ever in a scenario where I had to defend myself in a court of law, I would not get readings from the judge after the fact as I'm being convicted that I'm demented, that I'm that dumb, that off base. I have a general sense of how the law works. My wife is also an attorney, by the way, so, I get a little bit of information from her, tiny bit of information. She don't really like to talk to me if I'm being 100% honest. She don't even really like me if I really, really think about it. Just kidding, love. Don't attack me. But yeah, I would not perform this badly in a court of law to the point where the judge says I'm demented, because essentially I'm saying I'm entitled to this basically mansion because, black girl magic and no trespassing sign.
Good was found guilty on all counts of burglary and breaking and entering, and immediately sentenced to 90 days in prison.
I think the District Court of Maryland did the right thing today.
Ian Chen, a 19-year-old living with his parents in a neighboring house to the home Good occupied, brought the case before a Maryland commissioner's office because he said he wanted to take back the neighborhood from criminals.
I felt it was my civic duty to do the right thing, to file these charges, and then to ultimately bring her to justice here today.
So first of all, I want to give a lot of respect to Ian Chen right there, the brother of Lauren Chen, the content creator that recently was in that whole Tenet fiasco, but has since come back to Instagram and to X. And I want to say, look, man, I know Lauren is the media person and all that, but you could take up that role. You identified a criminal, you forced them out of your neighborhood, and this lady criminal that was with the other criminal, and good on you for being able to detect a threat as well as you did. Again, Lauren Chen's brother absolutely killing it in this new segment, dressing up for court, testifying against her, facing her down, and delivering a guilty verdict.
I was pretty scared. I mean, all of us in our neighborhood were. We have a lot of elderly folks who were afraid to even go to sleep at night because they were worried that someone like Tamika or Tamika herself would break in and be living in their house and refuse to leave.
Whoa, Lauren's brother. What do you mean someone like Tamika? How dare you? Maybe there was some truth to the racism allegations that she threw out earlier, because you're like, we're really worried that somebody like Tamika would come and get them. Now, to be fair, the person that she was with was a violent criminal who stole cars. They were stealing a mansion, so they also steal homes. And in addition to that, the guy's like up on all these heroin trafficking and other related charges and unrelated crazier charges. So maybe, just maybe, they're implying something that's actually true about them, but we will not tolerate racism from Lauren Chen's brother. So everybody, do me a favor, tell Lauren Chen to get her brother Ian in line. Now look, I don't really have much to add in this particular story other than the fact that we have to wait and see what's going to happen to the guy who's occupying this particular property, the one that's facing serious charges in the state of Pennsylvania. But yeah, she was sentenced to 90 days, which does not seem like enough based on her crime. Again, she's been occupying this property since July, around July 4th time. Apparently, she ended up blowing up a sale of the property to another person. So I think there should be consequences at least equivalent to the amount of time that she spent in this property. But, as far as we could tell right now, justice has been served, and the black girl magic equals I get a mansion may be the dumbest argument ever put forward in an American court. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Tamika Good not being very good. Till next time.